In today's video, I'm going to talk about intercropping coffee with bananas. Just like you can see in my garden, if you watched my previous video, you know that I have coffee and bananas planted together in the same garden. Now for us, for starters, we live in the city, in the heart of the city. And so that means we do not have that big land where we can, specialize and plant this and that. So we maximize the small land that we have to grow coffee and bananas and also other things that can help our family and also be able to generate some form of income for us as we stay in the city. So you are welcome. If you are watching me for the very first time, my name is Asperia, very passionate farmer. I do poultry, I do plant coffee and bananas. I have all the beautiful vegetables. If you have been following me, you know the pattern. If you are watching me for the first time, please subscribe, and this is the right place for you. Let's get right into now. For starters, here in the eastern part of Uganda, coffee is a cash crop, and very many people are earning a lot of money from coffee just because the prices are really favorable compared to other regions, but one is higher than the other. But if you do well, you can maximize profits from both of them. So my husband loves coffee so much, and I do love bananas so much. So we had to come together in agreement that he's going to plant this, I plant this. But then at the end of it, we love everything right now. We love everything. If you watched my story somewhere, I shared a story on some channel about how I came into banana growing, and it is really inspiring. And so my husband also came into coffee growing, and we came together to make this farm, and it is beautiful. We have harvested this coffee twice, and it's been close to 3 years since we planted, and it is really doing well. We have tested some of the money out of this coffee and also out of the bananas. Planting coffee and bananas together is really good because you're going to maximize the space. Instead of having one crop, you can have both. So I basically want to talk about how we do it. So you start at the spacing. Now, the time we planted our plantation here, we really planted, not really like a commercial garden. We have commercial gardens right now, but this one particularly, we didn't really plant because we did plant them as our hobbies, and you know what I mean. And so we planted them in lines, but the person we had hired to put for us the lines didn't really measure well, so they are a bit staggered, but it's okay. It's really okay. The spacing is not really so fine, but they have grown, and we have tried to increase by planting more coffee. If you look around, I will show you. So we want to talk about spacing. If you're doing a commercial garden, you should do recommended spacing. Now, the recommended spacing for coffee, if you're planting Robusta, people space it at 10 by 10 feet. You find that the distance from one plant to another should be 10 feet. And if you're doing Arabica, we do 8 by 8 feet or 2.4 meters by 2.4 meters if you don't understand the language of feet. So then the bananas, if you're planting bananas alone, the spacing should be 3 meters by 3 meters. That is also 10 by 10. But because now we want to intercrop it with coffee, we are going to double the space. We make it 20 by 20 feet or 6 meters by 6 meters. I don't know whether you get it. And so the reason we do that, because we want to reduce the competition. Both of these crops, they are heavy eaters. Coffee eats so much. Bananas also, they eat. So we want to reduce on that competition. That's why we give them a wider spacing. But because nowadays people are in town and they really want to maximize their spaces, there are so many other patterns that people have developed. You find that instead of 10 by, they are doing 5. They are planting coffee in rows and they are squeezing it, because they say if you squeeze it as well as you care for it very well, you give it fertilizers, it can still do well. But the recommended one is that I have mentioned. And so the growing pattern, you can do in rows, then you can also do, you stagger a little bit. You find that you have planted bananas this line, the other line. But me personally, I always love neat and beautiful things. And if you hire me to come and establish for you gardens, you see I always quote you money for pegging the garden. So we do lines, line by line. So when you do that, it is very good for you, because at times when you want to install like an irrigation system, it is going to help you. Now, so if you look at my garden here, so the way it is okay. But if I want to install an irrigation system, for example, like drip irrigation, it's going to be very hard for me, because some coffees are not in the same line. You find one is here like that. So I always recommend need planting, so that you can have your crops in one line, and if you want to put an irrigation system, you don't struggle. So you can plant that. And also variety selection. You look at the variety of coffee that you want to plant depending on the region where you are. If you are in Western Uganda, Arabica may not do well for you, because in that side people plant so much Robusta. I think it is suitable for the weather and the garden, the land, the soil textures of that side. So know the variety that you want to plant depending on your locality. So for bananas, you can also choose the varieties that grow very well in your locality. It is always good for you to grow the varieties of bananas that grow very tall, so that they will offer some form of shade to these young coffee plants that you're going to intercrop. Now, what I like with intercropping is that bananas, they grow a little bit faster compared to coffee. So when they grow, they again come back and offer them shade. That is why they are really a perfect blend if you want to do intercropping. So grow bananas that can grow tall enough to offer shade to these without even significantly blocking the sunlight. Of course, the coffee plants need sunlight, but they don't need hot sun. So they can really do well in shade places. Now, before you establish your farm, first manage the soil. Look at the soil in the area where you are. First of all, you can do the soil testing or soil analysis to determine the fertility of your soil, the soil pH. You know what to do. If it is too acidic, bananas are not going to grow. If it is too alkaline, still they will not grow. They need to grow in the soil that is good and very good, well aerated. You also test the drainage capacities, because these two plants do not want waterlogged areas. They do not want places that are hard, or like places which are sandy where drainage is very fast, like soils which do not hold water very well. These two plants are not going to do really well. So first do soil analysis, and you'll see, determine whether it is worth investing in money to establish those to establish their farm, planting those two crops. And also in soil management, you can also do soil amendments, whereby after you've done the soil analysis, you discover some of the nutrients that are lacking in your soil, and then you do them, improve them. You bring the fertilizers, you bring the soil, the agricultural lime, and you neutralize the soil. You put a farmyard manure, organic content that improves on the soil, especially if it has less nutrients. You do amendments before you plant. Sometimes we do mistakes like we did here. Sometimes we plant without doing the analysis, and that affects us later after we have invested in our money. On soil amendment, we can use for fertilizers. If you your crops, these two plants, they are heavy eaters. So, and apparently it is not really easy for you to get organic fertilizers, like really organic fertilizers. So what we do, we use both organic and inorganic. Organic fertilizers, because they are long term, they stay really long in the soil. Then inorganic, because they act very fast. So know what your plants need at a particular stage, and then use them to improve on the fertility of the soil, to replenish the nutrients in the soil, and also avoid competition. Because if the fertilizers are few in then if the nutrients are not adequate in the soil, definitely your plants are going to be stunted, because coffee roots are moving here and there, banana roots are moving here and there, searching for food. So make sure you give them. And also, you can also do mulching. Mulching helps in conserving the moisture in the soil. The first time we planted these coffee plants, we lost a lot of coffee, because when it started shining, it shined for close to 2 months without rain. And by then, we did not have water, like reliable water supply. So we couldn't really do irrigation. So we lost a lot of plants, which had even caught up because of sun. So we had to invest in mulching. We mulched our garden, and by the time we did the mulching, we saw a different change because sun did not hit them so hard like the time we had not done mulching. So mulching is going to really help you, especially in conserving the moisture and also helping you to stop that rapid growth of weeds. When you mulch, you minimize the weeding, and because the roots of the bananas are always up, they are not really deep. We always like minimize the holes, putting holes again in the garden. You find you're injuring the roots. So when you do mulch, you eliminate those unwanted weeds. And also pests and disease management. Now these two things can fall sick. Oh, there's a time our coffee here had coffee rust. The leaves were all sick, and the production wasn't really beautiful. And so you need to do practices that will stop the pests from coming into your garden. Even bananas fall sick, just like any other crop. So you need to look at how am I going to, manage this. You can use the pesticides, you can use so many ways to control pests from here in the garden. And that will help you to get very good production at the a very good harvest at the end of the season. And when the things have grown, like for instance, coffee, if they have grown and they have reached maturity, they are ripe, it is recommended that you harvest manually using your hand, because once you do it, you harvest these coffee cherries very well, and you find that they are not injured, and in that process you don't make a lot of losses. And when you're doing bananas, you need also to be very careful, because at some point they will need staking. You will need to stake them to avoid the wind from breaking them. As they grow, they become heavy, and so you find they break. So you need to do staking, you need to weed properly, you need to prune the unwanted leaves and unwanted branches of this coffee that are not productive. A lot of things that you can do in maintaining these two plants, so that you can maximize your profits. Instead of having one crop, you can have two. So in the next video, I'm going to tell you the advantages of intercropping coffee and bananas. I hope it's going to be very encouraging. Thank you for watching. I believe you found it helpful. Mwah.